All right. So first of all, I wanted to just thank Microsoft for hosting this today. I'm sure if you're here, and I'm looking at some of the names in the people list here, my friend Giuseppe Riso from used to work together, and I see a couple other folks I recognize. Well, my name is Matt Ruiz, and I'm the head of Power Platform at Con Edison. Con Edison is a regulated utility. We distribute gas, electric, and steam across our service territory, which includes really New York City and Westchester County, New York. And why I was excited to really come here today is because our power platform journey has been really unique. And I thought that, there are probably some expert level people in the audience that have far more knowledge than I do. But to the folks that are starting out or really trying to sophisticate their model, I thought maybe sharing my story and my team's story would be helpful. And I guess a good place to start is to kind of realize that Con Edison deployed Power Platform probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And when it was deployed, I believe it really was kind of right around that pre-pandemic stage, right? And it was a new thing. It was kind of new for folks. People really didn't know how to embrace it. People didn't really know how to incorporate it into their work processes or to their technology infrastructure systems that they already have in place. We have 15,000 employees roughly at Con Edison, both union and management shop. We have a lot of field employees. We also have a lot of obviously traditional corporate roles, and we have a lot of different needs in our company. And so when it was deployed, I think at first it kind of was like a proof of concept. Let's see what happens. Let's see if people are interested in this thing, and let's see if people start building apps. Um, Come to the pandemic time, everyone's working remote. People had maybe more time on their hands, and all of a sudden, there's an explosion of interest in Power Platform. I mean, we went from a few apps and automations to thousands in over the course of that first year of the pandemic, maybe first 1 to 2 years. And what we started to realize is that this thing is bigger than we really imagined it could be, and we're going to need some structure around this, and some kind of like law and order, so to speak, and kind of done in the right way, not to inhibit innovation. Because one of the things that I found about Power Platform, and if you've all used it, is that it's really built for innovation. It's built for the developer, as we call them, the makers. It's really got a lot of capability. There's thousands of connectors. There's multiple tools with Power Automate, Power Apps. You've got the Dataverse underlying all of it. You've got Copilot Studio, Power Pages, Power BI, and it just is a very massive product. And it's easy to use, right? We're all here because we know that it's low code, and that's an advantage. But what we also realized in our journey is that you had a lot of folks that didn't have that traditional IT background, which is expected, building solutions in the platform. And so when my team, my newly formed team, was handed the challenge to manage this, we already had 4 years of inventory built in the system with really not a lot of process and guidelines over the building of those things. And so one of the challenges that I saw is, where do I start first? And if you're in that same situation, it's, whether you don't have any real estate and you're just getting started and want to know how to set it up, or if you've got real estate and it's kind of unraveling in a way and you've got to clean up and you've got so much inventory. Either thing I'm going to talk about today is hopefully will be able to help you, because I think the technology is one thing, and you often hear a lot of people talk about the technology and how, the advantages of low code, the advantages of having pre-built connectors, and pre-built, agents and things in Copilot Studio that you can leverage very quickly to sophisticate your solutions. But rarely do I ever hear anyone talking about the administrative burden and the governance challenge of something so powerful and so accessible. And so that really is what my story is about. And so I guess the best place to start was when we were handed this product. We had to learn very quickly. And I think one of the best ways that we did learn was one, partnering with Microsoft. I'm not sure if he's on the call today, but someone by the name of Michael Varis has been really instrumental with us in trying to help us understand the tech. But we also had to formulate process and governance around that technology. And in order to do that, we realized that we have all of these default environments that get spun up when someone signs on. We've got all of these licenses, but we want to kind of mirror traditional ALM to the best of our ability, right? Where feasible. And so what we realized we needed to have is an intake. And that intake needed to kind of formulate and guide us down our path to what is our mature operating model going to look like. And what I mean about intake is really environment strategy and environment setup. I remember in the beginning when we were talking about Power Platform and we were getting torn between shared corporate environments where we'd have thousands of solutions in this one environment versus doing department environments. We couldn't really kind of agree on one approach. And it kind of dawned on us that, just like Power Platform has a different flavor for everybody, maybe our environment strategy needs to mirror that a bit. And maybe it needs to be formulated around the understanding that you're not going to have a one size fit all strategy. Depending on the intake that we've built, which was a Power App, we've built this intake platform for all of Con Edison. When any IT project comes through that pipeline. And what we looked to do was streamline that intake and suit it for Power Platform so that when the maker submits a few questions and answers, right, we're able as an administrative and governance team to place that solution, that automation, that app, that Dataverse component, right, into a bucket. And those buckets are isolated from each other. And the way we did that was really like a quadrant kind of setup, which was high, high, low, low. Many of you have heard that before, probably. High risk, high complexity, low risk, low complexity. And when we were able to kind of do that, what we found was that corporate environments worked for a large part of our real estate. And these solutions were low risk. These were, I need an employee check-in app for a large event. We need to do a survey. Those kind of solutions can sit in the corporate environment and be in a shared space. But then we've got outage management response solutions in that same Power Platform. We've got SOX regulated technologies in that platform. And so based on the intake and the quadrant that we came up with, we would basically put that object or that solution into either a corporate environment, a department environment, or a solution-specific environment. And for us as an administrative and governance team, that also helps us quantify to our leadership what kind of solutions we have that we're dealing with on any given day, and also allow us to troubleshoot and isolate the most business critical solutions and automations from the rest of the pack. We're using Power Platform in almost every facet of our business. As a utility, outage management and response is paramount. Safety is paramount. So those types of solutions, we want to make sure we give them the attention they deserve. We want to make sure we build the infrastructure around those solutions that they deserve. And I'm talking repos. I'm talking source control. I'm talking pipelines. I'm talking delegated approvals, ensuring you have the correct check and balance when migrating through lower to higher environments. And you don't want to impose all of that infrastructure and all that sophistication on, somebody building a simple app that they're only going to use for a limited amount of time that doesn't require that type of sophistication. And so what we've tried to create and cultivate here at Con Edison Power Platform is really kind of a mixed bag of, different technology kind of different complexities together so that it works organically, but that everyone also knows upfront when they're signing on to build an app in our platform, what the expectation is based on the way they answer the questions. And I feel like that has made us put the right structure in place, to give us a little bit of a roadmap of how we're going to operate 2 years, 3 years from now. On top of that, we formed a very strong COE. Our community in Con Edison is 900 members right now. That's a sizable amount of employees for a company of 15,000 approximately, right? And it's growing every day. And so if you are a team out there and you've got Power Platform and you're saying, well, how do I ensure that I am educating my workforce about my different environment strategies? How am I going to ensure that I'm getting the right information to the right people at the moment they need it? It's having those regular monthly check-ins and establishing that community and making sure that the people in that community have that feedback loop to you, the governor or the administrator on the platform. And that's worked extremely well for us. Another thing that we do is, and if you're thinking about how to incorporate more buy-in in your organization, is we have this thing once a month called our maker moment. So makers from across the company get to come in front of hundreds of people, because we do get hundreds of people at our meetings every month, and they're able to showcase different connectors that they've used, different approaches to building their app and their automations, highlighting what went well for them and what didn't. We created a message board so that we could crowdsource solutioning and take some of that heavy weight off of the small team that we have to govern this massive platform. And so you have your environment strategy, you have an intake that forms that strategy, you've got a strong COE that you bring your community members into and engage with them and have them present to other team members. You've got message boards where people can crowdsource solutions. And then also having a site where you can go and learn on your own pace how to build these solutions. A lot of times we'll get questions that will, I've run into this issue, can you help us? Or, hey, do you know how I would approach building this? One of the things we're able to do is leverage a common place, right? A common repo where we store all this information and we provide self-learning, we provide tutorials, we provide education, but we encourage the users to do it at their own pace. Because what ends up happening is you as the governing team and the administrative team, if you try to solve every single one of those problems, you will never be able to operate efficiently. You have to encourage the users to know where to go to get that information and feel comfortable about it. We also tag along, and it's something that I think is a really good thing for folks to have on your team if you have the bandwidth. It's also great to have your people on the governance and administration team be part of those troubleshooting sessions or those solutioning sessions where you have a maker that's run into a problem, because then you learn and you're the one that can spread that word across that larger community and make it a focal point at a future center of excellence meeting. So why I kind of bring this up and why I wanted to share it is I feel there was such frustration in the beginning for us to try to get to that point. And I think we just one day decided that we might have been overthinking it. We weren't going to find one solution for everything. We needed to take things and break the problem down into smaller chunks. We knew we needed a voice. We needed a platform for other folks to be able to share their ideas. We needed to have an environment strategy that met the individual need of the person building the solution. You may hear this yourself. Someone that's building a simple solution doesn't want to go through all of the heavy baggage that someone that's building something more sophisticated has to. You don't want to encourage people to say, you know what, it takes too much time to get through this vetting. I don't want to build here. I'm going to take my idea somewhere else. That's exactly what you don't want. You want to make sure that those people that are building those simple solutions can get there spun up quickly. The other thing that we're looking to do now that we have that environment strategy, we have a common intake, we have a strong center of excellence and a face and a presence in the company, is we also want to introduce automation. So we are a small team. We're going to be spinning up numerous environments. We get tons of requests. We also ticket everything. So if you're a smaller organization and you're handling everything through email, that's not the ideal way to do that. You want to have a ticketing system so you can report and you can obviously quantify your ability to close out tickets, get environments stood up, get people access to security roles. All of those things should be quantifiable so that you can start to measure out what your team size needs are going to be in the next 3 or 4 years. And that's something that we found has worked very well for us as well. And I think that really where we see the most innovation is when we have those makers come in and present on their solutions. I think that even us as administrators and governance team members, we are wowed by what people can do. We had just a quick use case. We had somebody that was tired of going through and filling out paperwork to park in our yard in downtown New York City. It's a very restrictive parking situation. There's a lot of filling out paper, and this person wasn't asked to do it. They decided, you know what? I want to help solve a problem in my workday. I'm going to build a Power App. And they were able to highlight some of the out of the box features like QR code, DocuSign, right? Things like that that were able to kind of make it very easy to show how this solution would help a business process outside of his day-to-day work. This was just something that was annoying him. And he found a way to come in, and when he presented it, people were just blown away that he could do that without any prior background of building apps. And so what's important as a governance and administration team is, are you recording these sessions? Are you recapping using Copilot, right? We have a big demo coming up in a couple weeks where we're going to demo building an app, an automation, an agent, a report, end to end with Copilot. Once you get that in people's minds and they believe that they can build with the use of Copilot, you're going to grow your user base even more. And we're using it for, like I said, outage management. We're using it for financial, for billing. We're able to repurpose a lot of our employees to higher value tasks because of the automation, because of the building of these apps. And that speaks for itself as well. Giuseppe, you had your hand up. Sorry.
Hey, Matt. Good afternoon.
Hey.
First of all, for everyone on the call, Matt's fantastic. So, we've had a chance to work. We've worked together for a long time. We haven't worked together in a couple of years, but he's a tremendous person and resource. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks,
Matt,
Giuseppe.
one of the things that we're struggling with on the utility front is, as it pertains to Copilot, right? Is not just Copilot, but also, some of our Power App solutions is data retention, right? What is discoverable? What is liable? How does legal feel about it? If you could talk to us a little bit about your experience in navigating, the legal and ethics piece, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, Giuseppe, great question. Thank you for the kind words. Giuseppe, likewise, is just been a tremendous colleague over the years, and an incredible resource, and someone that I definitely value his experience. It's interesting that you bring that up, Giuseppe. So just before I try to answer that question, one thing I will tell you is that we worked with law in our organization to actually build an automation through Power Platform to purge records due to record retention policies. So, just as another sell for the platform, automation is definitely a way to go there. As far as working with legal to understand the impact of data storage and what our policies are and what we're responsible for, my only advice to you, and I'm sure you already know this, is that they have to be engaged and they need to understand the platform up front. And I think that takes time to spend that energy to kind of go through this with them, understand that you can use different places to store data like Dataverse. You can use SharePoint lists, which we all know is another way to do so. However, there is data limitations with SharePoint lists. So I think basically what I see Power Platform as in relation to data record retention, I see it one as the tool itself being able to solve that problem through automation, through a bot going in and being trained to purge as necessary. And two, from a more administrative governance policy procedure perspective, partnering with the law department, being present at their town halls, at their venues, and showing them how Power Platform is set up allows them to kind of weigh in and kind of also work with us to build in sophistication to the platform to ensure that this is happening seamlessly through automation. We want to try as much as possible to take human error out of it. So what we've been doing early on is meeting with them. We have folks in the legal department, our practice operations section of Con Edison in our legal organization is an award-winning one, and they are building these solutions as well. So we have the luxury of having them very close with us as we're starting to formulate that. So that's what I can speak to as of now.
And that's helpful, Matt. Thank you. And it's just one thing that we're just trying to align on as an organization moving forward. So thanks for the feedback.
Thanks, Giuseppe, and thanks for the comments. Karen?
Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for sharing Con Edison's experience. Same across the board. I do have a question, though, because I do want to automate as much as I can.
Yes.
But many of the processes you mentioned, and I put this in the chat, there are apps with part of the COE toolkit that is out there. Just wanting to know what your experience is with trying to do some of this automation for environment request application, new makers, that type. How much of this are you using the COE toolkit, or are you kind of going just grassroots developing?
A little bit of both. I think that with grassroots development, we've already been there. We've already done that. When it comes to using the kit, we're building out our automation strategy right now. So what I would say is this is where I feel like when you have a good relationship with the vendor in terms of sharing knowledge and having those resources available to you to get you set up, because you really only need them to get you started. And then once you get started, you're on your own. You're pretty much full-fledged at that point. We're basically just getting underway with the automation. And I'll tell you another reason why we didn't just jump head into the water with that. We wanted to lock down the manual process first because of, as you know, if you don't lock that part down first and your people don't understand the mechanics, once you introduce automation, it can be very dangerous if that's not tightened up. So we've done it in a very, I guess, agile way. Our MVP was manual. The next phase was grassroots automation, building on our own. And then getting further into the journey is leveraging the kit to be able to do that for us. And we're very near to that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Harrison?
Hi, Matthew. I'm just curious how or if your citizen dev community is defining best practices on solution architecture. So that phrase solution architecture, it opens up a lot of doors. But when it comes to the Power Platform, I found that there's a specific way of doing things that works best for my citizen dev community. And it is pretty challenging, not so much for those dedicated developers who are doing enterprise level solutions, but to introduce good behaviors early on is pretty tough. So how have you guys done that?
Yeah. So trying to focus, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, they actually would they rather we tell them what to do. And I guess that is a luxury in a way. We're not finding that we're having to combat them. They're actually coming to us, telling us, solution this for us, give us the template, give us the schema, and then we reuse that and socialize that. And when our folks come to put their intakes in, they're submitting that architecture along with they're submitting it to us for vetting, but it's something that we've come up with almost. So in our organization, we're not really facing that problem. We are, though, we do, like you probably have a pocket of experts who feel that theirs is the best. But I will say, we have a strong enterprise architecture organization that works adjacent to us, and we partner together on best practices. So in enterprise architecture, and I see somebody here from, I don't know if he's still on, colleague I used to work with, Mr. Tom Rizzo, who is a big proponent of Power Platform and a very good enterprise architect. On the call, he's moved on to another company. We align and publish those playbooks in tandem. So when you go to their site and you come to our site, even though we're two different teams, you're seeing the same architecture. And so you're seeing the same thing. So when we get a consultant that comes in, right, and they want to put their hands on it and they feel their architecture is the right way, we basically just explain, if you want a key to the door to get in here to build, this is the way you're going to build it. Simple as that. And that's been working for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff, Matt. Hey, Matt, Matt, there's a couple questions in the chat, so I'll kind of read through a few of these. But as far as materials are concerned for training your teams and getting your makers kind of up to speed, what sort of content do you use? Is this Con Ed specific and made content, or are you driving them to Microsoft's content sessions like this, things like that? How are you? What material are you providing?
Both. So what we do is we take our bigger players and we kind of bring them in to workshops with us. So we're both in the workshop together. They're the makers, we're the governance team. We try to sign up for workshops that Microsoft offers together. We do channel them to Microsoft documentation, but what we find is that they want you to present the Cliff Notes version for them. They don't want to read all that documentation. And that's where we use our monthly COE Power Platform forum to not only, we really do our education there. So if you've got we get a couple hundred, we've had 400 people at these meetings. We're training them basically right there on what they need to do when they're building this type of app, when they are asking for this type of environment, what kind of architecture we're looking for when they submit their diagram to us when they're ready to build. So it's a mixed bag. We do have a site where we've published I have a great team of people that work for me. We just went over this at our last meeting. Denise Hosvin, who works for me, published a training catalog, and it was a mix of internal and external being Microsoft documentation that someone can go for a single source of truth in order to learn.
Makes sense. Yeah, good stuff. As far as the intake process is concerned, what does your environment strategy look like? Like, are you providing personal developer environments to everyone to kind of play in and then use pipelines to drive those into a sandbox or into a production environment? What does that look like?
So what we do is when someone gets a premium license, we allow them to begin building in the default environment. As soon as they have an idea and that idea is going to have traction and they want to operationalize it, and our quote unquote definition of operationalize it means you're going to share it with other people to do business in your department, you now have to file that intake. And based on those questions, you get a readout at the end of the intake. And it says your object has been classified as low risk, low complexity. Please file a ticket to be added to the corporate network, where you will do your build in dev and you will use pipelines to push, test, and prod. That say somebody else comes in and they want to build a more sophisticated solution. They go through that intake. They start out in a default. They say, you know what? I want use of connectors. We, by the way, just to kind of build on my thought of it's built for the maker. Power Platform to me is built for the developer, not the governance team. I look at it as a bank, okay? The bank is built so that you can walk right in and grab the money and walk right out. That's the maker. If you don't block your connectors, if you don't start to put in some DLP policies, you're going to have them do whatever they can do, right? If you can push it, the button, you will. So what we like to do is lock it down. So when we give you a default environment, we give you access to do some very kind of low code beta testing. When you're ready to get mature, you file our intake. I just kind of went through what a low risk, low complexity output would be, which is a corporate environment. If you're high risk, high complexity, you're now going to get your own dev, your own test, your own prod for just your solution. And you're going to get a repo, and you're going to use pipeline management to basically have what we call our system assurance team oversee the migration of packages from a lower environment to a higher environment.
Yeah, good stuff. Makes sense. Thanks, Matt.
I saw a question here. What's your intake process tech? It's a Power App. It's a Power App that's integrated. If that's what the question was.
Yep. I'm kind of reading through a few of these. What's your team size right now? How many makers do you support? Do you know how many apps, flows, how many environments you've got inside your tenant?
We've got 4,000 flows. We have 2,000 apps in production. I think we had more like 4,000. We used I'll talk a little bit about that. We have about 4,000 flows, 2,000 power apps of all different criticality, right? Some of them are mission critical. Some of them are simple. We've got a team size of 6 right now. And that 6 people, that's not our only job. We also manage another RPA platform called Blue Prism, and we manage a SharePoint portfolio. So with those 6 people, we do all 3. We do Power Platform, we do the RPA Blue Prism legacy system that we have, and the SharePoint portfolio. We have 900 members in the community. Roughly 500 of them are active makers. Again, 2,000 production apps, 4,000 flows. And desktop flows, meaning like a bot logging in and mimicking human behavior, we have roughly 150 to 200 of those.
Okay.
And I just want to touch one thing too. Cleanup, right? When we came in, if you remember the beginning of this chat, I talked about we walked into a world of inventory that we had to kind of remediate. What we were able to do is we were doing it manually. We were purging all of these stale applications. Then we built a grassroots automation to do it. And then we started using the toolkit, the COE starter kit, to automate that process to be able to classify if an app's not been active for a certain amount of days. We send an email to the owner and to the owner's manager that we're going to delete it if they don't take action on it. And we've been able to purge to date probably almost 1,000 of apps like that, which is important because those are consuming space in your tenant. You're having people that have premium licenses that shouldn't. So that's part of our strategy as well, is keeping it current and active and managing people and making sure they're accountable for what they build in our tenant.
Yeah, good stuff. One more question, then I'll kind of hand things back over to you and the rest of the audience. As far as your intake process is concerned, do you have any sort of logic built in for classifying those requests into specific categories?
We do. We have 8 questions, and based on yes, no to those questions, you get put in one of those 4 categories. I would say 65% of our real estate is probably going to be what I would consider low risk, low complexity, and that they're going to go in a corporate environment just like a lot of their friends, right? Those more nuanced, critical solutions, high risk, high complexity, that are going to get a solution specific environment, that's probably more like 15% of our real estate. And there's logic around that. And some of those logics, if you want me to share, are, is your solution governed by SOX control? Is your solution contain PHI data? When COVID came around, we built the Power App for checking in the mornings on symptoms. Okay, that type of data is considered PHI. So that solution is going to be dealt with a lot differently in the Power Platform. And so that's why we ask those questions up front. I also think that one of the other questions we ask is, what kind of connectors are you using? So depending on what kind of connectors you're using, you might be getting put into a different quadrant. And it's worked for us because it's transparent. Everybody sees the questions up front. Our cybersecurity and enterprise architecture team, we vetted those questions with them so that they didn't have to weigh in on every single solution that needs to get built. And then people are waiting in this line to get approved. We got it approved up front. We built the logic into the Power App up front. We built the readout up front so the user can just get going right after they're done answering those questions. And we could keep taking questions if people have them. That's most of the story I wanted to tell. So.
Yeah, Matt, this is Bhagya from PSCG. I'm colleague with Giuseppe as well. Thank you for incredible insights.
Yep.
Just a question around the intake process, the 4 categories that you talked about. How do you align the business units? Like when you decide an environment design policy, do you go by first the business unit, and within those business unit, you would have those 4 categories? Or you would go the reverse order? How would you, put that together?
So basically, those 4 quadrants equal out to 3 different environment types: solution specific, department specific, corporate. And no matter what business fills that out, right? Depending on the way they answer those questions and what quadrant they get, that would tell us what type of environment we would set up for that business. So if I think I understand, I want to make sure I'm answering your question. We set it up front, and the business basically answers the questions in order to operate on the platform, and then they're told which environment type they need to stand up or ask to be stood up, which then we will do via a ticket.
Gotcha. Thank you.
See, we got 20 minutes left. I talked about cleanup.
So
go ahead. Sure.
Sorry, one question I'm having it on this part.
Sure.
One thing is you mentioned that there are some applications which is like a higher tier according to the coordinate, right? User acceptance part of it. So if it is like higher coordinate and it is like enterprise wide, right? So obviously we have to do a ALM process around it. And if we are putting ALM process, what is that ALM process which you guys have done it? Is it like with the Power Platform pipeline? And
yes.
If so, then how you managed environments? And if we are doing the managed environment, then have you got a challenge of getting the license for all the users who are using the apps there? How you handle that ROI out of it?
Yeah, so our license model is conducive to our strategy. So that's a big part we didn't talk about. So if that's going to affect your ability to enforce the ALM with pipelines and repos, and that could be a roadblock for you. For us, it wasn't a barrier for us to implement ALM, and we've implemented ALM across all those environment types I talked about. The only difference is when we get into those higher tier enterprise-wide business critical solutions, we have repos and we also have change management, meaning we have folks that go in and oversee the migration of packages from a lower environment to a higher environment. We have a formal review board that also takes a look at those ones. With the ROI, we really haven't had to overthink ROI on that side of the business because our licensing structure is set up for us to be able to do this without really that consideration. But 4 years ago, it was a consideration, and it did limit us from being able to do certain things that we wanted to with the platform. And I think that's why it took us so long to kind of mature, is just because the licensing didn't match up with what we needed it to be in order to enforce some of these policies, these pipelines, things like that. But we use Power App pipelines. We don't use DevOps pipelines. We use DevOps pipelines in the rest of the company. For Power Platform, just keep the team as is and not go out for the skill set. We're using the Power Platform pipelines.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Rez. I mean, but like this is a very much of a big challenge. I mean, unfortunately, we required to get the license for all the users who are using it, not only the makers, and that
basic user license.
Very big cost. Of,
basic user license. You're saying like a basic user.
Right, the basic user license, but like the basic user license, with that you cannot get into the base managed environment and use the Power Apps, right? And it will be like a not efficient way wherein, like, I mean, I'm giving the premium license to the all the 15,000, say in your case, right? 15,000 users we are giving it, and then not utilizing. They are not be making the. And you are saying that 900 users are there who are in the community, but 15,000 users are the users of the company, right? So then ROI of the whole application might not be coming so great, right? So is there any alternative way, like, I mean, not only to you, any of the Microsoft folks who can suggest any answers around it, right? I mean, this is a little tricky situation for most of the organization, which I am saying.
So I have not seen that so far with the model that we've put in with 15,000 people requiring a special license to be able to do this. We probably there might be, it's because we don't have any apps that are being used by 15,000 people. So I haven't seen the pipeline, and I'll let someone else from Microsoft if they want to take a chance at this. I haven't seen that affect us from a cost perspective, implementing ALM and using pipelines. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the actual issue, but if anybody else is in the call from Microsoft that wants to weigh in on that, they certainly can. I just haven't seen it yet from my end.
Got it. So your apps are more of like confined to a department level. So it's not enterprise level.
We have enterprise level apps, but I guess I'm not necessarily understanding the mapping of an app being shared with 2,000-3,000 users and the implementation of ALM and pipelines. I'm not mapping the two issues together right now.
That's fine. I actually, for the managed environment, we need a particular license or premium to access the apps. Right. And that's a challenge I was talking about. But that's fine. We got it.
I understand
like anyone else want to chime in, please do.
I think that kind of
go ahead.
Brings a good question, and kind of to transition to how you guys are managing any sort of premium licensing allocation today anyway. Matt, is that something that you guys consider as part of the intake process, or is that kind of a one-off basis based on the use case?
We grant them. Like we have a host of premium licenses. We don't have one for everybody in the company. We always could buy more, but we do not have every license even being occupied at this point. The premium licenses that we give out are for the people that are makers. If you want a premium license at this time, we don't have any vetting other than the fact that you're a management employee and that you want to build an app and you have a project in mind. That's all that's required. All of our users have basic user licenses, and they're able to kind of use the apps, and that's really what our strategy has been.
Awesome. Are you guys working? I know you mentioned some Copilot and agents today. How are you guys tackling that? I mean, I know it's developing a lot right now. Are you guys just jumping right in head first?
So we have different products to build agents. Like, as you know, you have Azure AI Studio, you've got Copilot Studio. We have other tools in the company that we can build agents. Our strategy and posture is to align on a common policy and procedure, no matter the tech. And we are still in the pilot phase of rolling those out. However, we are beginning to kind of showcase some of the capabilities of these agents and building these agents. But again, if you just allow people to start building them and you don't have a common framework or governance team overseeing it, you could get into dangerous territory. An agent, for example, could transact on a app that has confidential information in it, like PII, right? And so that's something certainly you want to have eyes on, and you want to make sure you've got the right structure and process in place that doesn't happen. So for us, what we've done is we've turned it off prematurely, and then we want to roll it out on a case by case basis where possible. So that's been our strategy overall with the platform once we've taken it over, is really lock it down and open it up slowly versus leave it open and then try to lock it down after the fact.
Yeah, and I think that's a great strategy. Are you guys working with any internally, like M365 Copilot or anything for internal use?
So we have a separate team rolling out M365 Copilot. Folks get confused in our organization. I'm not sure if any of you see that on the call between the different Copilots. You've got Copilot for Power Platform, Copilot for 365, same technology, but different teams managing it. And so getting a license for Copilot with 365, we've come to learn, allows you to do certain things like spin up agents and maybe kick off Power Automate flows. But then you've got this other team managing the governance of those things. And so communication is critical across these different teams overseeing these Microsoft products, right? Because you've got many different ways to deploy agents and do similar functions in the Microsoft suite of tools. That's what we've come to learn.
Okay, good. This has been great, Matt. Are there any other questions? I know we're kind of 10 minutes out from the top of the hour. Are there any other questions from the audience or any kind of follow-up?
Yeah, I had a question, Matt. Curious, you've mentioned that you manage SharePoint team, Blue Prism team, and Power Platform.
Yeah.
Is the intake form, is it used to funnel the requests in one of those three platforms, or is it just for a Power Platform?
It's used for all of IT technology. So basically, it doesn't dictate which way you should go. We're just one team that has a mixed bag of tricks that we can offer customers. But our intake that we built with the Power App, it actually services all of IT. So if you're going out and procuring Oracle system, for example, you're going to go through that same intake. It's just that your path through that Power App is going to be different depending on what you're building. So if you're building an app, or you're going out and trying to procure a big system like a work management system, the way your journey is through that Power App and that intake is going to be very different. The quadrant thing is specific to Power Platform solutions.
Gotcha. I have a quick follow-up. So listening to Microsoft recently, and just full disclosure, we also use Blue Prism here. And Microsoft's idea is that there's a place in Power Automate to use solutions or use automate the processes that prior Blue Prism would automate, or UiPath or Automation Anywhere, and migrate them into Power Platform due to maybe lower complexity or cost. Do you see this happening in your organization?
From a licensing perspective, all I can say is it's very, very clear which one is more conducive. Are you asking if there's a sell for migrating off of one platform to the other? I just want to make sure.
If you see a shift in the organization of putting fewer automations on tools like Blue Prism and more into
Absolutely. Power Platform is our future.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm because we have the similar shift, and just wanted to see what the others are seeing.
I mean, when you think about the Microsoft ecosystem that comes along with building an automation and Power Automate, not taking nothing away from Blue Prism, great product, great team there. But there are big differences, right? As first spinning up these automations, right? If you do a like for like in terms of building, you can certainly see some clarity. I encourage you to do your own research on that. I don't want to speak for anybody or influence, but what I'll tell you is this: there is a lot of upsell to building an automation in an ecosystem where you have apps and agents and a dataverse available to you, right? I think that kind of speaks for itself, but if you do some digging, you're going to find out some more clarity as well there.
So your team's also supporting all these automations, correct? The team of 6.
We support everything, all automation for the company.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's tough though. Power Platform in and of itself is a big lift. To be able to have to do both is a challenge. Obviously, we all want more people, right? But we can't get as many as we want. But my team does for lack of a better word, a damn good job at what they do, and I'm lucky that I got them.
Yep. Thank you very much for all the insights.
Of course.
Hey, Matthew. Yeah, on that note, one of the things that we've been looking into is using catalogs to hopefully create templates both for our developers to be able to quickly replicate solutions. But I guess from a citizen dev, have y'all citizen dev perspective, have y'all been using those at all? If so, what's your experience?
So we actually, I'm not going to lie, I'm not as familiar with the catalogs. I have a developer on the team who is doing a reusable component project. And what he's doing is basically doing what you're saying, building templates so folks can just reuse and scale quicker. So it's probably the same thing. It's something that's on our roadmap that we have as a deliverable this year, to be able to give that out to the community that we have. But I think what happens is what we found is we had to really educate them up front about so many things you think they would know that they don't. So before we gave them that type of stuff, we wanted to really get down to the basics with them. But it's absolutely something we're doing this year. It should be part of anyone's strategy and roadmap. Automation should be one in terms of environment configuration, and that I think common intake is one. And like what you said, cataloging, reusable components, that should be one as well.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Sure. Anybody have any final questions?
Hey, Matt, any insights on how you have been leveraging AI Builder in your ecosystem?
I will tell you real quick. So I didn't give you my background. Before I was in digital, I worked for Con Ed for 17 years. April 25th is my 17th year in the company. And when I started, I was a mechanic. I worked out in the field. And I, at one point for Con Ed, spliced electric cable underground. So those sewer-looking structures you walk on the street, I used to work in one of those. And one of the things that we saw with AI Builder that we were able to sell to people building field force enableable mobile products with Power Platform is the ability, like AI Builder, to do what's called the image recognition, right? Or OC, object capture, OCR, whatever it's called, and basically be able to tell the difference between something dangerous and something that's okay. And so what our sell has been to the community is that when you train your model, you're able to distinguish between, as the example that you see on YouTube, a Sprite can and a Mountain Dew from far away. You can basically use AI Builder to train a model to be able to detect the differences between those things. So for us, it comes down to the people in our community that use these products, that do inspections. That's where we've sold the ability to use AI Builder to train these models to be able to do some of their work in the field.
Thanks for that insight, Matt. And at PSCD, very recently, we launched prompt engineering in one of the inspection applications.
Awesome.
So instead of, a field supervisor logging in, the information or what they are seeing at the field in hundreds of pages of document, now it is, happening in just minutes.
That's amazing.
That's something we were able to do it in AI Builder. But thank you for sharing the image recognition piece.
That's great. And I'd like to talk to you offline. How do you pronounce your first name?
My name is Bhagya.
Bhagya, if I think Jeffrey will share my contact info. I'm not sure how we can get that out to you. I'd like to talk to you more about that. And I'd also like to talk to, after this, I think was Parth, Who was the gentleman who spoke to me about managed environments and licensing concerns?
This Parth is, yeah.
Yeah, so Parth and Bhagya, I'd like to talk to you both after this at another time. If we can set up time in a meeting, one-on-one to talk more. I'd like to kind of explore a little bit more of both of those things you brought up today.
Happy to connect, Matt, anytime.
That's all I got, folks. Before I turn it over, Jeffrey, thank you to all the people that attended today and listened. Thank you so much. It's my honor to be able to share whatever information that I can with you. Giuseppe, thank you as well for the acknowledgement. Thank you for your questions, and thank you to Microsoft and obviously Con Edison as well, and to my team. Jeffrey, it's all you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you for the gratitude as well. So, no, this has been a great conversation. As I mentioned, it seems like a lot of customers are curious about how other customers of Microsoft's kind of approach the Power Platform and the governance. So this is always very, very useful, and I've gotten a lot of feedback on the side. So my gratitude to you. Just a reminder to everybody, I know folks are starting to drop as we're hitting the top of the hour. Session was recorded. I'm going to be getting this out onto the Master Series Hub by the end of the week. So keep an eye out for that. For those of you that are interested in kind of joining that Teams chat that I mentioned, I think I've got 9 folks on there. I will be putting something together and reaching out. We'll keep it utilities focused. Matt, I might pull you into that also, although I think you might have just dropped. But again, thanks again to everybody, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you.